Okay, here's a quick demo on how Fantahzee is played. We'll go over some of the decks of cards real quick. We have our treasure deck, you have your player deck, and you have your town deck. And then here we have our monster deck. Monster deck is consisted of level 1 monsters, which are depicted by the little guy up on top here. We have our level 2 monsters, which are depicted by this winged bat creature up on top here. And lastly, we have our boss monsters, which are depicted by saying boss monster down here. And of course, there are only 5 boss monsters in a deck. Alright, so we'll go over and how the deck is set up. Okay, so the way the deck is set up is you're going to have all 5 of your boss monsters set up in a row. Of course, they are going to be flipped over. And then what you are going to do is then deal out the other level 2 monsters in equal rows, so you have an equal number. And then these are going to go with your boss monsters. And now each one of these decks will be shuffled. Okay, so what I've done is I went ahead and shuffled my boss monster into each one of my level 2 decks up on top. Then went ahead and dealt out an equal stack of 5 of all my level 1 monsters. Now these are not shuffled into the top card, they are just laid on top like so. Okay, and so here is the setup after everything's been shuffled and placed on. You have your hero deck here, and then you have the 5 stacks that I just set. And you go and turn over the top card of each one. I have the treasure cards here and our 3 doom tokens, and our town here. Now this deck right here is always going to be considered the vanguard. Whichever is closest to the town is always going to be considered the vanguard of the army horde. When it comes to players, each player is going to get 5 hero cards and 5 dice. And then the last player is going to get the last player token. The way the game will end is when 3 boss monsters have been defeated. Each time a boss monster is defeated, one of these tokens is turned over. Once all 3 tokens is turned over, the game ends. But we make sure everyone has an equal number of turns, and that's done by the last player token here. Okay, so I went ahead and turned over all the player card hands here, so I can go ahead and discuss some different cards. The general cards are going to be played a lot like Yahtzee, so you're going to have the numbers here that are going to use to depict and what requires a hero to be activated on your turn. And then we also have action cards as well. Every turn you can play up to 2 hero cards and 2 action cards, but you can only have 5 active heroes in front of you. If you want to bring an additional hero out, you have to discard one to bring the other one out. On some of these cards, you're also going to see X's. What this means is X of a kind. So this would be one number of any kind, but this would be 3 of a kind. So that's how those will work. Some of these, like this one, will be 3 sixes and 2 of a kind. Now you'll notice also that there are some numbers that look like this. This is called steam. So to activate this guy, you can either create 5 steam or roll these dice. On this card, it'll be 4 steam or 3 fours. Now, how do we generate steam? On the top of the cards here, you'll see different actions here. So what you want to do is you want the cards up here that look like a hammer and forge. They are where the dwarf cards. Now here's a dwarf right here. What he does, if you see here, is when he's activated, he generates 3 steam and a shield. So we have 3 steam on here, and you happen to have a card with 3 or less steam, you can activate that card for free without having to roll underneath it. Okay, so now that we've discussed what the cards mean, we can go back over here to the deck. So, on your turn, you have to defeat this monster that's closest to the town, or you're going to draw a town card, which usually has negative bad things. Like this one right here shows a -1, so a -1 points to your hand. The points that you get are on the cards here. Sorry, it'd be up. These are the victory points that you get for each one of the cards you have in your hand. These cards up here is the strength / hit points of the monster that you're fighting, and then down on your hero cards, this is the strength / hit points of your heroes. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through a couple rounds to kind of show how the game is played. So on this character's hand right here, he has a card that shows get an extra roll this turn, and he's got a couple heroes. Now normally on your very beginning of a game, you're not going to want to bring out heroes that require this many dice because it's going to be really hard to do that. So on this hero, what he's going to do is play this card, which is going to give you 3 and 1 shield. And I'll go over what the shield means here in a second as we play. And then I think for my second one, see this one is activate, move a horde stack to any position in the horde line. I think I'll go and move this one up here. So this player one's going to play those two, and since he's only really needing to roll 3 dice, he's going to hold on to his action card for this turn right now. So now once he's done played his cards, he's going to go ahead and roll his dice. Oops, dropped one there. Okay, so you roll 5 dice, and then just like Yahtzee, you have 2 re-rolls, and you can keep what you want. However, if let's say I wanted to activate this one by giving him 3 steam to activate another card, once I put a die on this card and activate it, this die is considered locked and I cannot move or do anything with it. However, if I wanted to just debate on whether I wanted to activate him or not, I can always put this dice here and re-roll, and always grab this dice on a later re-roll if I decide not to. However, with him, I'm going to go ahead and keep the 1 there. I'm going to keep the 6 there for them, and then try to re-roll another 6. And there we go. So this guy is now, I'm going to activate both of my heroes here. So he needed a 1 and he did 2 6s. So my combined strength is 1 and 4, so it's 5. So I come up to here and I can kill any monster with a total of 5. So if I had, let's say, 10 points, I could kill this monster, and this monster. On these cards you're going to see here, you're going to see an ambush cards on here, and then some of these will have a thing saying counterattack, and we'll go over what that means here in a few. So I want to make sure I do not have any bad things happen to here and draw one of these town cards. So I'll go ahead and defeat this monster here for 4. We see here the 4 and 5, and it defeats it. Now, if I had more points, I can always choose to attack the card underneath this. Now, if I did and I was able to defeat it, I'll go and take the card back into my hand and move on. Once you've decided to attack a horde that is face down, you cannot attack any other horde that has a face up card. If I was to turn over this card and attack it, and I could not defeat this monster, my turn would end right away, and then my turn would be over. Okay, so now what we would do is, now that I've decided I've attacked this monster, I'd go into a counterattack. Now a counterattack means if this monster had an icon on here that said counterattack and then a number, that's the number of the monster's going to hit back at me at my 2 heroes. The only way I can defend against that is if I have a shield. So if this actually said a counterattack of 1 instead of ambush of 1, I'd be okay because my steam engineer has a shield of 1. Okay, it does not, so I'm actually fine. So he goes to here. So the next thing that will happen here is then I will turn over every card in the horde attack, and there's where you see is their counterattack there, just like I was talking about earlier. And I'll look at all the monsters here, and I'll look at the ambush. So we have an ambush of 1. So now it means that they are ambushing me for a damage of 1. Now, keep in mind, and I'll go and switch these cards real quick just to give you an example. If I had a counterattack 1 here, and I had to, I did not have a shield, one of my characters would have to soak up that 3 points of damage, or that 1 point of damage down here. So I could either have him take 1 point of damage or 4. More likely I would have him take 1 point of damage because he can only take 1 point. However, after that is done and I go to the ambush phase, this is treated separately than the counterattack. So then there'd be a separate attack of an ambush 1. And now if he didn't have a shield of 1, he would also then have to soak up the damage and die as well. Okay? But however, I was able to, I actually fought the spider and brought him down. So let me come up here. We have an total ambush of 1, and then of course my steam engineer can soak it up for 1. So I am done for my turn, and I have made myself 3 points. So now we move on to the next hero, and this is how it goes. So what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and put some cards together to show you how cards can chain reaction. Okay, let's say these are my 4 heroes I have out at the beginning of my turn. Okay, and I decided to play this activation card. That'll give me one extra roll, so I gotta re-roll 3 times instead of just 2. So you see here I've got my Sword Master, which I need 3 of a kind to activate. But if I activate him, I can choose another hero and it costs 2 less. I've got my Summoner here who requires 2 of a kind. I get 3 extra dice when I activate him. I have my Steam Brute, which requires either 2 Steam or 3 of a kind. And then I have my Steam Engineer, which will give me 3 Steam and 1 Shield when activated. And I need a 4 to activate them. So let's say I went ahead and rolled, and I got this right here. So I got 3, 3, and 2. So we got 3 and 6. So we got right here. So what I could do is I could take my 3 of a kind. I could put them on my guy here, who is the Sword Master. He would activate, and then he has 2 that are free, so I'd automatically activate him. So now I'm only doing is rolling, looking for a 4. Okay, and he actually will also give me 3 extra. See here, he'll also give me 3 extra dice. So I bring 3 more dice here, and once I rolled there, and then all I would need then was a 4. So once I got my 4, I can activate my Steam Engineer, which would automatically activate my Brute. As you see here, I normally slide my cards up when I activate them. It's not required, but it's a little bit easier to keep track of what you are and aren't activating, since the dice don't go on all the cards. Okay, so then what do you do at the end of your turn? So at the end of your turn, once you have completed all the forward phase, you would actually draw 4 cards from the top of the deck here. Their hand limit size is 5, so you would have to draw back down to 5 if you may have more than 4, which happens most turns. And then, like I said, at the end of the game, the other thing that we have to go over are our treasure cards. Now, the way treasure cards happen is that once you get to a hero, or I'm sorry, a monster that has a treasure chest in front of him. Let's find one here real quick. Here we go. So you're going to see monsters with either a 1 treasure chest or 2 treasure chests. All level 1 monsters are going to have a 1 treasure chest. All level 2 monsters are going to have a 2 treasure chest on them. And when you draw a treasure chest, you'll see on here there is a 1 level side and there's a 2 level side. So depending on what you defeat, you choose the side that you want. So this one here says activate, get an extra die this turn. So then if I put this underneath my Steam Engineer here, I would slide this under, and each guy can only have 1 treasure attached to them at a time. And once it's attached, you cannot swap treasures. If this guy was killed, the treasure gets discarded along with him, and the treasure goes back into the box. It does not go back into the deck here. So now when this guy is now changed, when I activate my Steam Engineer, he would also activate and give me an extra die this turn as well. Okay, so this is my first video, so I'm just going to go ahead and recap real quick on what you do on your turn. You'll have to set up the deck just like this. On your turn, you'll be able to play 2 hero cards and up to 2 action cards per turn, and they can be played in any order that you want, because some action cards may help you generate or give you steam to activate other cards that you're playing. Once you play your 2 cards, you will roll your dice and determine what you can get. Depending on what number you have combined strength between your heroes, you'll be able to then defeat the monsters that are on top of the deck. If you decide to defeat a monster and then defeat the monster underneath that deck, you cannot defeat any of the other top monsters. You're stuck defeating and killing anything that's now face down. If you draw a face down monster that is higher than your strength, you just go ahead and stop your turn, and your turn will be over. Nothing bad happens to you. If you decide to attack the top monsters, you can attack any one of the top monsters you see on here. This stack that's closest to town is considered the Vanguard. If you cannot defeat this monster on your turn, you will have to take, of course, the cards here that will give you bad things, like mostly are negative points. One is once you have defeated your monster and you bring that monster down, you will then resolve any counterattacks with your heroes and see if your heroes have any shields. If they don't, then they would have to soak up the damage that's taken by this monster, which would be 3. So it'd be 4 and a 1. If for some reason you had a set of 0 heroes out in front of you and not a single one can soak up the damage from this guy, then all of them would be discarded. Once you have taken any counterattacks that are available, you would then flip over all the cards that you have here and resolve any ambushes. And again, the ambush is separate from the counterattack. It's like a separate battle between your heroes and the monsters. They are not combined. Once the ambush is resolved, you go ahead and draw 4 more cards. Again, your hand limit is size is 5, and you pass it on to the next person. Once 3 boss monsters are defeated, you'll finish the game by making sure everyone has a equal number of turns by using this last player token. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner.